For some might mean a cycle of school. But Romania, for them, has been just a stopover for many of them. There are some who stayed here. What is the profile of the Ukrainian refugee that chose Romania to be his second home for the last 4 years?
Well, thank you very much. First, let's see a little bit what the figures tell us. There is, at the end of December 2025, 201,000 Ukrainians had gotten temporary protection in Romania. Of them, some may have departed, but most of them remain in the country. We think well over 100,000 remain in the country. And some of them have arrived 4 years ago, some of them continue arriving. The ones, if we look at the 2025, about 2,300 refugees got temporary protection documents in Romania every month of 2025, with a bit up and downs between the months, but an average. So the war and the presence of refugees is not something that passed already. It's something that remains active, and people continue looking for safety and security. Not in the numbers of 2022, not in the numbers of 2023, but it's still an active war situation. Of those remaining in the country, about half and half by now are male and female. Most of them are adults with children, but we have still 9% of elderly among the refugee population. Children are going to school more than before. About 48% of all the children attend Romanian schools. Others are enrolled in online classes in Ukraine and never enroll in the schools in Romania. Parents are and adults are trying to work as much as possible, obviously. 51% of all adults, according to a recent poll we did, declare to be working, which is a very good news. And if we compare it with other European countries, it's indeed very good news.
But is there something we learned from the last 4 years?
Well, many things. First, we learned the value of solidarity. And solidarity was enormous, and it was both spontaneous, but also there was a very well executed national response with national authorities, with local authorities, with organizations like ours, and then non-governmental organizations supporting that national response. This year we are marking 4 years not only of the full-scale invasion, but also 4 years of refugee response in Ukraine. We learned that a coordinated and effective action meant that no refugees left on the streets, that no refugee was left without food. And those things that seem evident 4 years after, given the magnitude of arrivals at the time, was a major achievement. We learned that the refugees who needed to transit to go elsewhere were indeed transported safely from border points in the border between Ukraine and Romania, or Republic of Moldova and Romania, to other borders to continue to safety. That people, which were millions, also required temporary assistance while in Romania. So the lessons are not only for the people who remain in the country, but also for the people who move. We learned that contingency preparedness should be continuous and active, and there the role of the emergency authorities, the Civil Emergency, the Department of Emergency Situations, which coordinated all of us in the emergency phase of the response, remains fundamental. And we remain engaged with them in reinforcing the national response capacity. UNHCR last year, as we closed our own warehouse with materials that were requested by the government to reinforce the national response, we transferred all of them, $6 million worth of material, sufficient to put transit facilities in 20 places at the disposal of the authorities, were transferred to the Romanian authorities to reinforce the national capacity. So we learn how to work authorities, UN agencies, civil society, and the larger population. Fruit of this, for instance, we have up to today coordination structures in several prefectures that have still a large number of refugees. And this has helped also local authorities to see the coordination between authorities as something very positive and with the civil society, not only for emergencies, but also to address the needs of the population in those areas. So we've learned a lot, I would say, and for reasons that we didn't wish they would have happened.
But, I mean, are those plans thought only for in case of emergency? It's already been 4 years. Are we thinking only, or you thought only what are we going to do with these people for short term, or are we already thinking long term?
Well, Romania was the first country that, at the same time that Romania put up an emergency response, Romania launched a medium and longer term response the same day, which was the first day of refugee arrivals. And in that way, Romania, I would say, was a visionary country. So they started to work, the government authorities, the local authorities started to work in the what next. It was never an issue of, okay, we just deal with the emergency and then we will see. No, we saw at the same moment, at the same time, the two tracks moving. And thanks to that provision, and thanks to that vision, actually, Romania was able to put up a national plan of measures for protection and inclusion of refugees before, again, any other European country. And a number of measures were triggered to facilitate access to healthcare, to facilitate access to employment, to facilitate access to schooling. So every ministry worked with their own structures, but also, again, with UN agencies, with the civil society, in order to see how to protect and include. And that process continues to today, this process of protection and inclusion, until the moment that refugees are able to go back to their country. Something else which is important to mention is that 18% of refugees in Romania live in temporary occupied territories. So there is an impossibility physically to go to their homes. And of course others are from parts of Ukraine which are regularly bombed, where civilians are killed and injured due to indiscriminate attacks.
You mentioned schools, the health system. Is there something these people need right now that hasn't been yet solved, or that it still has issues?
Well, our concern goes to the most vulnerable. I can refer that 51% of all adult refugees declared to be working. Some of them here in Romania, some of them working for companies abroad or teleworking, etc. Back in Ukraine, a number of them are still working with their in the previous jobs in Ukraine, but remotely. That part of the population and the population that declares that they cover their needs with their work has been continuously increasing. So that, I would say, is important. We need to reinforce the access to the labor market. Romania needs also skilled and semi-skilled workforce. 58% of refugees have a bachelor's degrees or higher education than bachelor's degrees. So these are people who are highly qualified, I would say, for the labor market. We had to suspend because of the financial situation where humanitarian agencies were affected last year. We had to suspend, for instance, something that was very useful, which were language classes tailored for labor inclusion. Not only to go around the supermarket and get your things, which are very important, but also specifically tailored to insert yourself in the labor market. Those gaps that the reduced funding have produced have not been, unfortunately, filled. At present, the government provides, or the Romanian state very generously, and according to the Temporary Protection Directive of the European Union, access of refugees from Ukraine to social benefits, the childhood allowance, the disability benefit, the minimum guaranteed income for families who are very destitute. That's good. That complements the situation of the families that are working. We would like to see more people working, but unfortunately we are lacking the means to foster that to the same level that we were doing before. Other programs that we had to reduce or cut completely are, for instance, psychosocial support for people who come highly traumatized. Some of the 2,300 persons that came last year on a monthly basis and requested temporary protection in Romania with the intention to remain in the country, have been subject to bombing and to alarms and to alerts and to see the applications in their mobiles with drones coming toward them for years. And these people need some kind of support as well. We have families of persons who are fighting in the war that also need support. So that capacity, for instance, in terms of this, continuing this example of mental health and psychosocial support, had to be discontinued. So there is a number of areas where organizations like ours, the UN Refugee Agency, were complementing the efforts of the government and state structures where they didn't have the capacity or the resources or the specialized services. We were providing them in order to complement that response. We and other agencies and other organizations had to stop quite a number of those programs, and we are concerned about that.
Did the Romanian government offer any help in that? Because language for 49% of the people who are living here and that aren't hired right now is a very important problem, I think, because if you don't speak Romanian, probably you won't be able to get a job. But and also on the psychological part, did the Romanian government mention something about helping? Are there any talks about it? Can other agencies help? I mean, what is the solution for these people in this moment?
Well, there are still some language classes, also for the labor market, that are provided by the national employment authorities, the ANOFM, and that is good that it continues. Other than that, there is very fragmented levels of assistance with a few organizations that remain engaged on this. The government continues to provide, or has started to provide since 2024, social benefits and social assistance to refugees, and that helps. Now, if we look at the whole picture, also we see that there is a number of people who are unable to work, and those persons normally are taking care either of elderly or very small children, and they are single parents, particularly single mothers, that don't even have the capacity to attend language classes or to go to job interviews. And because of lack of childcare, which also affects many other persons in Romania that want to work, they are not in a position to access the labor market. So it's a combination of factors at the same time. We were trying to cover the areas where others were not covering. Now we are less able to do so.
How do you think the authorities should talk about what is happening in Ukraine for that the people on the street, the people who live in Romania, understand better what is happening with these people? Because maybe if the citizens understood better, the reaction would be different, maybe?
I think it's important that we all, those who have a voice, those who have a capacity to represent others in a way, make a very clear effort, I would say, to put out data. I think data is fundamental in order to dispel rumors, to dispel disbeliefs, social media posts that have no fundamental and no basis. That eventually they go viral and people start reproducing them without any actual factual content. So on the one hand is adherence to facts. On the other hand, and I can only refer to the humanitarian commitment of Romania, and in that area I think we should probably speak all more, authorities and civil society and UN agencies, about what has been achieved, about all the areas where the response has been successful, where Romania continues to express solidarity on a daily basis, and contrary to what people believe, refugees still consider that they are welcome in Romania. It's very interesting that between those who consider that the relationship with the host community is very good or good, that's 64% of refugees. And those that consider that it's neutral is over 30%, with a very small number, less than 5%, that say that there is no good relation. So still refugees, if we take out, if we go to the concrete life of persons that go to the market, that children go to school, that try to find a job, that go to the health center in the occasions that they need, they still feel welcome. And this is important, and this is something that goes against the belief of many people that say, oh yes, we had great solidarity, but right now the relation is not good. Again, data coming from refugees does not necessarily support that. Of course, after 4 years of presence of refugees in the country, like in every other refugee situation in the world, the support is less present for the people. So refugees are more part of the daily life, and the initial strong expressions of support are left to the more daily coexistence between the communities. So we have the impression that this goes significantly down. We don't see it necessarily that way. Refugees, some of them report that the relation has deteriorated in the last year, but still consider it good, very good, or neutral. That's interesting. So they see some signs. They see that some of them are unfortunately victims of verbal abuse, particularly if people hear them or see them. But again, in the overall, when you ask them, they say, no, we're fine. The relationship with my neighbors is good or very good, or at least neutral.